Here we are, part 2 of the Sonic the Hedgehog timeline series. In the last video, which you should check out if you haven't already, saw us going over the story of all the classic Sonic games, the ones using the original designs for all the characters. By the mid-90s, Sonic was not in a good place. They failed to get a proper new Sonic game on the Sega Saturn, which hurt the brand. Sonic not having a proper follow-up game since Sonic CD. This led to the series getting a reboot of sorts. Even though I say reboot, it's not really. Everything that happened before still happened, it's just that from this point forward, the characters are getting a refresh and redesign. Sega hired Yuji Yukawa to redesign the Sonic characters, now taller with colored eyes. These are the designs most people are familiar with, and the ones that have stuck around for all future Sonic games. That's what we're looking at today, the first few games featuring the new redesigns of these characters. With all that said, I'm Rocko from Reamlore, and let's dive in. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to like and subscribe. We post videos just like this one on our Reamlore channel. We post a great new video every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, so make sure you're subscribed with that bell pressed so you get notified when we upload. Our first game in this new generation is an odd one, Sonic the Hedgehog Pocket Adventure. This was a game made for the Pocket Neo Geo Color and was a back to form for classic Sonic. No more 3D platforming, just back to the good old feel of speed. The story is back to basics, Eggman wanting to take over by using animals and stealing Chaos Emeralds, so Sonic and friends have to stop him. There's not much else left to say. The reason this is so notable is because it features the last appearance of the classic Sonic characters. The sprites in this game are the classic designs, but in multiple instances you can see their colored eyes, mostly in the cutscenes. The standout is also Eggman. At the start he has his classic look, but at the end he dons his new jacket, the one he would wear for the rest of the games. I'm giving this story an F, mostly because it's non-existent. Yeah, the game manual tells us nothing about the game's story, so I had to make an educated guess. Nothing else to say about it before we get to the next game in the timeline. By the way, if you haven't seen any of my videos, the way the rankings work is F is the worst, D is bad, C is okay, B is good, A is really good, and S is the best. Our first game in the new era is Sonic Advanced, made for the Game Boy Advanced. Back when 3D games were all anyone wanted to play on the home consoles, handheld games wanted to keep the styles of old retro games. So while Sonic was about to go 3D, this was back to form with 2D. The reason this and Sonic Advance 2 go before Adventure is because they feature Sonic's plane the Tornado, which was destroyed in Sonic Adventure, meaning this had to come before that. The story here, you will not guess what it is. That's right, it's Eggman stealing the Chaos Emeralds, so Sonic has to stop him. Yeah, we've been here plenty of times already, it's the standard. So while you destroy robots and get the Chaos Emeralds, it ends when Super Sonic fights Dr. Persistent on the moon. We also fight a new robot Knuckles called Mecha Knuckles, but there's not much to say there. The ending also shows Tails going to save him with the plane, but it's Super Sonic, so he doesn't need saving. The story is once again getting an F. I mean, it's the default copy and paste at this point. I'm not asking for the world, but come up with a more interesting story. Give Eggman a different plan, introduce some new characters, just something to make the story stand out. Fun fact about the game though, it was the first one to have Amy playable in a 2D platformer. Next up is Sonic Advance 2. This one sees Sonic trying to stop Eggman, or Dr. Never Calls It Quits, from once again trying to use the Chaos Emeralds to take over the world. Rinse and repeat. However, this story gets a boost because it has cutscenes to help depict a proper story. During his first fight with Eggman, Sonic rescues a young bunny girl named Cream the Rabbit and her pet Chow, Cheese. Yes, they are Cream and Cheese. Sonic doesn't have time to talk and runs off, but Cream's mother Vanilla was taken by Eggman, so she goes to help her. Later, Sonic also rescues Tails, who was captured by Eggman, before we get Sonic fighting Knuckles again. Why? Because Eggman tricked Knuckles into thinking Sonic was the enemy again. This is the third time Eggman tricked Knuckles into fighting Sonic. Why are the writers making Knuckles stupid? Anyway, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles fight Eggman in space, seemingly defeating him. Back on the ground, Cream found her mother, but she was taken by Eggman as Sonic and friends watch. Sonic goes Super to go after Eggman, and they have a final battle in space again. Super Sonic defeats Eggman and rescues Cream's mom. The story this time around can have a C. The stock plot and Knuckles getting tricked again drags this down, but everything else is fine. Cream is cool, and with the cutscenes it makes the story flow better. Here we are, the first new mainline Sonic game to follow since Sonic CD, Sonic Adventure for the Sega Dreamcast, and the console's highest selling game. The reason this was called Sonic Adventure was because instead of just playing as Sonic, we have 6 characters and 6 stories to play. The game was made to showcase all of the capabilities of the Dreamcast with all these different game modes, but we're here to worry about the story. Despite the game depicting 6 stories, it's really all the same story except from the perspective of the 6 characters: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, as well as newcomers E102 Gamma and Big the Cat. We'll get to them in a minute. So for this, I'm going to piece together the story as best as I can, since they run into each other a lot. We open not with Sonic, but rather Knuckles guarding the Master Emerald on Angel Island. This is what he's been doing his whole life, and he's not even sure why, destined to be here forever as the last of his kind. While he's deep in thought, he hears something break behind him. It was the Master Emerald shattering into pieces. From the shattered remains steps a water monster called Chaos, the main antagonist of the game, and a pretty iconic one at that. Something else also appeared from the Master Emerald, a shining red light that flies away. Since Knuckles didn't see what happened, he assumed Chaos shattered the emerald and they get into a fight. Chaos knocks him back before turning into a puddle and escaping. Bad things continue as without the emerald, Angel Island will crash down to Earth, which it does. Knuckles tries to put the Master Emerald back together, but it's missing pieces that flew off when the island crashed, so he has to go find them. Taking a break from all of that, we meet up with new characters Big the Cat and Froggy, both new to the series with their not-so-fan-favorite stages. We'll talk about that in a minute, but right now a piece of Chaos fell from Angel Island and mutates Froggy, giving him a tail. All Big cares about is Froggy, which is why he chases after his friend, all the way to Station Square. Also, something that confuses me, why does Big have a belt when he doesn't wear pants? In fact, it's weird how some of the characters have clothes and others don't. Meanwhile, Sonic is doing his thing running through a city. This is pretty cool because it's the first time we're seeing Sonic characters in normal human settings, where normally they're on their own isolated islands. Sonic sees some cops after something, and it turns out to be Chaos wreaking havoc. Sonic and Chaos get into a fight, and as we'll learn, there are different stages of Chaos, and this is Chaos Zero. Sonic seemingly wins, but we see Chaos can morph into water and escapes into the sewers. Eggman is watching this and calls Chaos the god of destruction, so he's like Nemesis from Beyblade? This is something I should mention. Going forward, all of the characters have voices and can talk, and in this game yeah, the acting from everyone is off. No one feels confident in their characters, which is a shame, but thankfully the quality of voice acting does get better from here. It's not the actors' fault, by the way. According to them, they were given no context for their lines, which is so bizarre. Why would you do that? To avoid spoilers? Just sign a keep quiet agreement. We catch up with Eggman activating his newest robot, E102 Gamma, an intelligent robot with a gun for a hand. The reason Gamma was added as a playable character was because it was the 90s and kids wanted to shoot in a Sonic game, so he was added to fill that void. We also meet another E-Series robot, E101 Beta, who according to Eggman is superior to Gamma. He has his robots fight to see who is better for the job of managing his egg carrier. Gamma wins, but Beta convinces Eggman to let him join up as well. Eggman has a hostile work environment. Pitting your employees against each other is not cool, dude. Or in this case, they're technically your kids since you created them. Later, Sonic meets up with Tails, who he rescued from his crashed plane. Tails explains he was testing out a new power supply to create a faster plane than Sonic's, using a Chaos Emerald. He figures why not use it to charge his plane, and takes Sonic to the Mystic Ruin to show off his workshop. When they arrive, they find Eggman, who calls himself Dr. Robotnik. Remember how I said at the start this was a reboot of sorts? It's more like a combining of the continuity. As it stood, there were 3 different versions of Sonic and his timeline of characters running around. There was the Japanese version, the American version, and the European version, all having different iterations of Sonic's story. The Adventure series was Sega's way of streamlining and combining everything. So here they say his name is both Eggman and Ivo Robotnik. Robotnik is his real name, and Eggman is a nickname Sonic called him. We later learn that he adopted the name despite his nemesis. Anyways, Eggman says he has big plans and needs all of the Chaos Emeralds to pull it off. They fight and Sonic wins, but Eggman still takes the purple Chaos Emerald. Eggman then throws it to a nearby Chaos, evolving him into Chaos 1, now with a skeleton arm. Eggman says he has learned about this from a stone tablet, and once he has all 7 Chaos Emeralds, he'll give them to Chaos and he'll rule the world, because he can somehow control the monster. After Chaos trashes the world, Eggman will create Robotnik Land, later changed to Eggman Land, and rule over all. The bad guys escape, and Sonic and Tails decide to find the Chaos Emeralds before them. Meanwhile, Knuckles has been steadily collecting the missing pieces of the Master Emerald, when suddenly the red light that appeared from the Master Emerald transports him to a fancy temple. This is an illusion, and Knuckles thinks this place looks familiar. As he runs around, he sees a ghostly vision of other echidnas. While running, he overhears a conversation between the Chief of Echidnas and his daughter Tikal. The Chief wants the 7 Chaos Emeralds to use as weapons for the betterment of their people, but Tikal is against it, saying that stealing and killing are wrong. Knuckles snaps back to reality with no idea what he just watched. Meanwhile, Sonic and Tails get the blue and white Chaos Emeralds, but Eggman swoops in and steals the white one. Later, Knuckles sees Eggman holding the white Chaos Emerald and asks what he's doing. Chaos 1 appears before them, and Eggman gives him the white Chaos Emerald, transforming him into Chaos 2 with another skeleton arm. They get into a fight with Knuckles fending off the monster. Eggman then gets into manipulation mode and tells Knuckles Sonic is looking for the Master Emerald pieces as well, before running off with Chaos 2. On board the egg carrier, we meet the other E-Series robots E103 Delta, E104 Epsilon, and E105 Zeta. They are the crew, and Eggman gives them the mission of finding Froggy and bringing him back. aside from Beta, who is absent. Sonic and Tails find the green Chaos Emerald but run into Knuckles, who thinks they have a Master Emerald piece. He gets into a fight with them and they take each other out, giving Eggman the opportunity to swipe the emeralds. You'd think Knuckles would learn not to trust Eggman at this point. Chaos 2 arrives and Eggman gives him the emeralds, transforming him into Chaos 4, a fish monster with more bones. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles fend him off, but Eggman's newest ship arrives, the massive Egg Carrier. Eggman and Chaos 4 retreat to the Egg Carrier as Tails says they can take the tornado, Knuckles running off to handle some of his own business, mainly the Master Emerald. Sonic and Tails fly off, but it doesn't go well for them, getting hit and falling to the ground. They're both okay, but the tornado was destroyed and they got separated. Tails landed in the jungle and remembers when he first met Sonic, following him after he zoomed by. He realizes that the tornado isn't fast or strong enough to get past the Egg Carrier's defenses, so he has to take his new plane and he needs a Chaos Emerald to power it. He finds the red Chaos Emerald, but unfortunately Froggy hops by and eats it. Yeah, what's been going on with Big is that he has been chasing Froggy around trying to catch him in ponds, but he has had no luck, the frog always giving him the slip. So instead of running around smashing robots, you spend your time fishing, which most fans did not enjoy. The reason for the fish stages in this game was to show off the water effects the Dreamcast could make. That's also why a water monster is the main antagonist. The effects do look cool for the time, I will admit, but these fishing stages are boring. Why would I want to fish in a game? I can fish in real life if I wanted to. When playing Sonic Adventure, I want to run around, smash things with a hammer, shoot at things, travel across the world, you know, have an adventure. Tails chases after the frog and manages to catch it, but then the red light surrounds him. In the vision, Tails sees Tikal and they talk about the emeralds before Tails returns. There, Big the cat runs right in front of Tails, causing him to drop Froggy. Froggy runs off with Big chasing him, but Tails got the red Chaos Emerald and uses it to power his new plane. Taking a break from that, we meet up with Amy, who is reminiscing about the excitement of when she first met Sonic in Sonic CD. This is also the debut of the romance Obsessed Amy, which is my personal favorite. She is so much fun in this role. She is living a normal life in Station Square when she sees the Egg Carrier in the sky. At this moment, a flicky bird with a necklace flies into Amy. They get chased by a robot called E100-0, a prototype of the E-series. Amy hides her new friend and figures this flicky escaped from Eggman, making a vow to protect her, dubbing her Birdie. Knuckles, meanwhile, gets transported into another vision, this time at the Angel Island altar where Tikal is praying the Master Emerald, surrounded by the Chaos Emeralds. Tikal begs them to transport everyone away from here since her father and the Echidnas are coming to seize the emeralds. Tikal turns to these things called Chow, saying she will do something to stop her father. I should explain, in the game you can take care of these things called the Chow, again trying to slap another game onto this game in the form of a pet simulator. Knuckles snaps back to reality and finds himself back on Angel Island in front of the same altar, where he mostly completes the Master Emerald. The emerald shows Knuckles a vision of the Egg Carrier, telling Knuckles where to go. The only problem is he has no idea where the Egg Carrier is, but fortunately he sees E102 Gamma walking by and follows him to the grounded Egg Carrier. What happened was Big finally caught Froggy, but Gamma took him, so Big followed the robot as well. Gamma, Knuckles, and Big manage to get on the Egg Carrier as it takes off. While trying to find his best friends, Sonic runs into Amy, who he hasn't seen since Sonic R. She wants Sonic to look after Birdie and tags along with him as he looks for Tails. Amy obviously wanting to get closer to Sonic. They hide out from some robots, but Zero appears and captures Amy and Birdie. Sonic runs after them, but is too slow as the Egg Carrier arrives and beams them up. Sonic can't catch up, but thankfully Tails arrives with his new plane, the Tornado 2, now with blue and yellow highlights. Sonic and Tails arrive on the Egg Carrier and run through the place, smashing every robot in their way. The E-Series robots show off their frogs, but none of them are correct aside from Gamma, which makes Eggman proud of him. In frustration, however, he sends the other E-Series robots away, which Gamma doesn't like. Eggman then tells Gamma to go to the cells and get Birdie from Amy. While on his way to the holding cells, Gamma accidentally steps into the workshop where Beta is being torn apart and remodeled, which horrifies Gamma. The only way Eggman was going to let Beta on the ship was by using him as an experiment. Gamma goes to the cell and wants Amy to hand over Birdie, but she refuses, begging Gamma to let them go. Gamma cannot understand why Amy has feelings for something she barely knows, and Amy feels bad that Gamma can't understand love. Birdie flies in front of Gamma, who opens the door, letting them escape. Amy says Gamma is nice and that they can be friends if he wants. Big, while searching the Egg Carrier, found Froggy reuniting with his friend. Knuckles, meanwhile, is searching for the pieces of the Master Emerald when the ship starts to shake. The Egg Carrier is so advanced that it can change shape, but it doesn't stop Sonic and Tails from getting to Eggman on the sky deck, who has Amy and Birdie cornered. Turns out the Cyan Chaos Emerald was in Birdie's necklace, so Eggman takes it and orders Gamma to get over here. Eggman orders Gamma to destroy them, but Sonic gets the upper hand in the fight. Before he could finish off the robot, however, Amy jumps in the way and tells him to stop. She says Gamma is her friend, so Sonic backs off. They have bigger problems as the Egg egg carrier starts to fall, so Sonic tells Tails to take Amy and Birdie out of here. Before they go, Amy tells Gamma that he doesn't have to be Eggman's slave anymore. He should leave so he can live his own life, because they're friends. Tails takes Amy and her bird and flies back to the ground as Gamma flies off as well. Meanwhile, Sonic searches for Eggman and changes the egg carrier back to normal so it wouldn't crash. Knuckles has collected the last few pieces of the Master Emerald and gets another vision. He was back at the altar, which was now burning and on fire. Knuckles runs to help Tikal on the ground, who says she couldn't stop her father and the tribe before running to the Master Emerald. Big has made it to the top of the ship and tries to get away, but Eggman and Chaos 4 arrive to stop them, demanding the frog. This is where we learn why Eggman wanted Froggy. It was possessed by Chaos's tail and had the yellow Chaos Emerald. Eggman takes the emerald and gives it to Chaos along with the Cyan Emerald, transforming him into Chaos 6, who looks even more monstrous. Sonic arrives to help with Big, still wanting to save Froggy, who Chaos swallowed to get his tail back. Sonic and Big work together. Sonic fights off Chaos 6 while Big fishes out Froggy, saving him finally. Eggman can't believe it and things get worse for him as Knuckles arrives. Eggman bails and Sonic, being a psycho, jumps after him trying to run away. Unfortunately for Knuckles, Chaos 6 gets back up and they get into a fight, with Knuckles luckily fending off the monster. The 6 Chaos Emeralds were left on the ground and Knuckles takes them before gliding to the ground before the egg carrier explodes. Big and Froggy ran away with Froggy returned to normal and they found the tornado too, using the plane to get back to the ground. Their story ending with the two of them enjoying the forest. Back on the ground, Tails sees Eggman crash nearby and runs after him, leaving Amy behind to do her own thing. Eggman launches a missile into Station Square. It lands in the middle of town but doesn't blow up, forcing Eggman to go and fix it. Tails runs after Eggman, doubting himself slightly but reassuring himself that he's grown a lot since he's been with Sonic and that he can disable the missile. Tails beats him to the missile, disables it, and fights off Eggman in his mech, the town cheering him on as a hero. After escaping from the egg carrier, Gamma had a lot of time to think about what happened and realized that Eggman is a bad person hurting his E-Series friends. He makes it his mission to save them from being Eggman's slaves and guinea pigs, even if it means destroying them. That part I don't get. If he was able to figure out Eggman was a bad guy, why couldn't the other E-Series robots? I wish they gave a little more explanation that Gamma was special because he could learn or something to justify this. He destroys Delta and Epsilon in the egg bases but can't find Beta or Zeta. At that moment, he thinks they are probably still inside the egg carrier. Amy, while on her own, thinks since Sonic saves her a lot, she should be more independent and do things herself. She starts by wanting to find Birdie's family, who Amy think are prisoners of Eggman. She thinks that maybe since Birdie was on the egg carrier that her family are there, and she's proven correct, as we'll soon see. Gamma finds Zeta in the egg carrier transformed thanks to Eggman and destroys him. After that, he realizes that Beta and himself are the last remaining E-Series. Beta arrives in his Mark II form and they fight with Gamma destroying Beta, releasing the Flicky inside. As it turned out, it was one of Birdie's family and Gamma realizes the truth. He needs to be destroyed in order to reunite Birdie's family. Gamma blows himself up, releasing the bird trapped inside of his body. Amy is nearby but doesn't see what happened, which was a mistake. It would have brought their stories to a satisfying conclusion if Amy was there when he died. Birdie is reunited with her family, but they are intercepted by Zero, who is still functional. Not for long, however, as Amy smashes him into tiny bits with her hammer, letting Birdie fly off with her family. This gives Amy new motivation to try her best and be a better version of herself that makes Sonic regret not begging for her time. Sonic finds himself outside of a ruined temple, which is shaking, and sees a red light. When Sonic gets inside the temple, filled with water by the way, he sees a massive mural of a giant monster destroying everything. At that moment, Sonic gets a vision. A sanctuary was on fire with Chao's dead on the ground, and Tikal crying, "Why did this have to happen?" She says she has to stop this and goes to the Master Emerald. Sonic meets up with Tails and chase after Eggman nearby. While flying through the forest, Eggman met up with Chaos, still alive, who non-verbally breaks up their partnership, beating the good doctor up. Knuckles, in the meantime, finally restored the Master Emerald, sending Angel Island back into the sky. While Knuckles is glad he fixed the Master Emerald, he does wonder what was up with those visions and if this is his fate, to remain here guarding the Master Emerald for all eternity. He's not done, however, as even though the Master Emerald is complete, Angel Island is now falling back to the ground. Knuckles thinks that maybe this is because of the Chaos Emeralds he brought back, but can't think of that now as Eggman has appeared in front of him collapsed, with Chaos lurking nearby. Sonic and Tails can't find Eggman, so they search for the tornado too, but have bigger problems as Angel Island was falling again. When Sonic and Tails arrive, they find Knuckles and Eggman on the ground. Chaos beat them up and took the 6 Chaos Emeralds from Knuckles. Eggman was especially mad as he flies off. Knuckles says if Chaos gets the final Chaos Emerald, they're finished, which is when the red light transports Sonic into another vision. We're back to the burning altar where Tikal is trying to reason with her father and the Echidnas, but they're not in the discussion mode. They just want the emeralds to conquer and take more and more. They blow past her and the Chows standing in their way, marching up to the emeralds to take their power. When they arrive, however, they are greeted by Chaos Zero, who kills them all for hurting the Chows. For context, by the way, Chaos's backstory is that he is a mutated Chao, changed by the power of the Chaos Emeralds, and keep that in your brain for when we get to Sonic Frontiers. Tikal tells Sonic that the Chaos Emeralds turn thoughts into power, and begs the Emeralds to stop Chaos as a green glow envelops her. Sonic is snapped back to reality where Knuckles already left, but they have to get the last Chaos Emerald on board the Tornado too. They get to the plane, but Chaos 6 beat them to it, swiping the red Chaos Emerald. After doing so, Chaos has officially absorbed all 7 Chaos Emeralds. Chaos goes to Station Square and absolutely destroys the place with water. He is transformed into perfect Chaos, the same monster from the mural Sonic was looking at earlier. He's an awesome, terrifying monster and the biggest threat to appear in a Sonic game up until this point. Sonic arrives on the scene to find Eggman in his egg carrier too, which he made because he knew the first one would be destroyed. I'm glad he's come to accept when he builds things, Sonic destroys them. Despite this being one of Eggman's most impressive machines, Chaos blasts him out of the sky in an instant. The red light appears before Sonic and he figures out that this has been Tikal the whole time, the one who sealed Chaos inside of the Master Emerald. She appears before Sonic and tells him she was trapped along with Chaos, seeing the sadness that consumed him. If this continues, Chaos will destroy everything just like he did before. Perfect Chaos discards the Chaos Emeralds now without any power. Tikal says that they need to seal him inside of the Master Emerald again, but Sonic says that won't solve anything. Chaos will still feel the pain inside and do all of this again. They need to solve this issue now. This is when Tails, Knuckles, and Amy get Sonic the Chaos Emeralds, with Tails explaining Sonic taps into the Emerald's real power, opposed to Chaos who uses them as a weapon. With everyone left in the city cheering them on, Sonic uses the power of the Chaos Emeralds to become Super Sonic, backed by the theme of Sonic Adventure, Open Your Heart. We get the awesome climactic fight between Perfect Chaos and Super Sonic, with Super Sonic managing to defeat the monster. Chaos reverts back to normal, but he isn't angry anymore. He sees that the Chows have survived into the modern day, bringing him peace. Tikal thanks Sonic and his friends as she and Chaos pass into the afterlife. The story ends with Sonic and his friends running off to find their next adventure. After all is said and done, I'm giving this story an S. Not kidding, this story has only gotten better with age. You'd think splitting up the story into 6 different parts following 6 characters would make a mess, but it's actually compelling and makes a unique way to tell a story. Because as you play the campaigns, you learn more about the story that makes it better, appreciating all the minor things the writers put into it. Everyone has a cool moment and character arc. No one feels wasted aside from Big, who was just put in as a comedic element. Sonic telling Tikal that they need to relieve Chaos of his pain is a standout moment, along with going Super Sonic. The other character arcs are great. Knuckles questioning his place as a guardian, Tails believing in himself, Amy trying her best to improve, and Gamma going on this epic quest to free his friends. Chaos is also great as the main antagonist, a sympathetic monster like the Universal monsters. And this is where Eggman really started to develop his sense of humor. This is an all-time Sonic game with an all-time story. As for gameplay, it is very fun. Like, it revolutionized the way things work in 3D Sonic. I highly recommend it. Moving on, this is a weird one. Sonic Shuffle is a Mario Party clone. I'm not kidding, this is a straight-up Mario Party game with Sonic characters, made to compete with Mario Party. Also made by the same team who made Mario Party. And it, for some reason, has a story, so we should talk about it. The reason this is placed here is because none of the characters introduced in Sonic Adventure 2 show up, meaning this had to happen before that. The story starts with Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy getting transported into another dimension. They are greeted by a fairy girl called Lumina Flowlight, who says they are in Imaginary World. Okay, we just started and this plot has already gone off the rails. She explains this world is created from the dreams of those from other dimensions, and that the precious stone which created this world was stolen and shattered into pieces. The stone can make dreams come true, which is why Lumina and Illumina, the goddess of dreams, protected it. They weren't very good at their job, however, as a being called Void stole the crystal and it shattered. That caused Illumina to lose her powers and get trapped far away, allowing Void to transform parts of the world, which will destroy it. That is why Lumina brought Sonic and friends here to retrieve parts of the stone and save Imaginary World, and they agree to help. They go around to multiple locations damaged by the Void and repair it by retrieving the precious stones. As they do so, they start getting visions of Void saying a bunch of cryptic messages. He's always been here, he didn't want to destroy the stone, he wants to be whole again, etc. After they get the final precious stone, they find Void going to the Temple of Light to get his hands on the nearly restored precious stone. Void uses the precious stone to transform into a horrible monster, and our heroes have to work together to stop him. After they take him down, our heroes figure out what's really going on. They all realize that Void and Lumina are two sides of the same coin. Void was a part of the precious stone, the part that's filled with desire and anger. They're both essential to a dream, which is why they say Lumina should forgive Void. Lumina accepts Void, faults and all, and they merge back into Illumina. Once Illumina was reformed, she thanked our heroes for their service and sent them back to their world world where they enjoyed a nice day at the beach with Lumina watching nearby. I think the story deserves a C. It's pretty good in a few spots, mostly with Void being very interesting, but the story is really wacky and all over the place. I mean, sheesh, what was this plot? Imaginary dreamland that has trains with wings? It's silly, but it's still really fun. The next game in the timeline is a fan favorite, especially today, Sonic Adventure 2. Being the sequel to Sonic Adventure 1, it was made for several reasons. First, this was the most successful game on the Dreamcast, so it only made sense to do a sequel, and this was going to land on 2001, the 10-year anniversary of Sonic. The reason this is so memorable as well was because at the time, people thought this might be the very last Sonic game. To be blunt, Sega had lost the console wars. While the Genesis did really well, the add-ons were bad and the Saturn was lackluster. The Dreamcast was a good system, but after so many failed consoles, Sega lost trust with consumers. Made worse by the fact that it was competing against the GameCube, the original Xbox, and oh yeah, the PlayStation 2. It's why a lot of heart was put into this game because Sega weren't going to be making consoles anymore, so where does that leave Sonic? It didn't end here though, clearly, but let's go over arguably the best Sonic storyline. Same as Adventure, there are multiple campaigns, only for my convenience they are split in two. Team Hero featuring Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and Team Dark featuring Eggman as well as newcomers Rouge the Bat and Shadow the Hedgehog. We'll get to them in a minute. Both teams set up for different gameplay styles, a fast character, a brawling character, and a mech character with guns. I'm merging the stories as always. Our story starts on Prison Island, a facility owned by the global military of this world, the Guardian Unit of Nations, or GUN. This facility is being raided by Eggman in his Eggmobile mech. He's looking for something made by his grandfather, Gerald Robotnik. This is the first instance of Eggman's past or family lineage. His grandfather was a brilliant scientist just like him. After Eggman hacked into GUN's servers, he figured out his grandfather had completed a secret military weapon, which was never used because GUN feared it. Eggman destroys everything in his path before finding the weapon, something locked up in a stasis chamber. Eggman enters the password Maria and places the white Chaos Emerald into the console, which releases the weapon. It turns out to be a creature, the fan favorite edgelord, Shadow the Hedgehog. He has a great design, a black and red version of Sonic with pointy hair and hover shoes. Eggman thinks it's Sonic at first, which we have to mention. Originally, Shadow looked a lot more like Sonic, but went through design changes. Still, the story reflected the duplicate thing, so whoops. Shadow says that since Eggman released him, he'll work for him now. Shadow demonstrates his power by effortlessly taking out every robot still chasing after Eggman. After they're gone, Shadow says he will grant Eggman's wish, but only if he brings the Chaos Emeralds to the space colony Ark. Shadow steals the green Chaos Emerald from a bank, and as he's evading the police, he flashes back to the past where he was running away with his childhood friend, Maria. He was in a capsule and remembers Maria saying goodbye and telling him to do something for the people of this planet. Shadow is sure she wanted him to make the people of Earth pay, which is why he's doing all of this, to get revenge. Sonic's story starts out with our blue buddy taken prisoner in a plane by GUN, who thinks he stole the emerald. Buddy escapes and proceeds into one of the best Sonic levels ever with the song Escape from the City. Sonic outraces GUN's robots and their huge truck, which does way more damage than Sonic. This is also where we meet Oma Chow, a robot Chow who exists to tell the player how to do things. I wouldn't have mentioned Oma Chow, but weirdly it becomes a reoccurring character in the series, so I thought Oma Chow's debut would be important to mention. Sonic evades GUN all day before running into Shadow holding the green Chaos Emerald. They get into a fight and also call each other fakers, which is just iconic. I have no idea why that wasn't in the movie. Shadow has the upper hand, however, as he uses chaos control and teleports around. Shadow says he's the ultimate life form, and that he doesn't need to collect all 7 emeralds to use their power. Shadow teleports away as GUN arrests Sonic. Meanwhile, Knuckles gets into a fight with Rouge the Bat, who's trying to steal the Master Emerald. Never a day off with this echidna. Rouge is a fan favorite character for many reasons, and she's a great addition to the cast. Rouge is obsessed with jewels and wants the Master Emerald simply because it looks cool. While they're fighting, Eggman swoops in and grabs the emerald. To prevent it from being taken, Knuckles shatters it once again, the pieces flying out far and wide like last time. Knuckles goes on a mission to reassemble it, with Rouge also wanting the emerald pieces. Rouge infiltrates Eggman's base and says it's her mission to find out what Eggman's up to. Eggman meets Shadow on the space colony Ark, where he shows the Doctor what Gerald created. Not many people knew the Ark was home to a top-secret research facility where weapons were being created, and one of them was the Eclipse Cannon, which at its full power can destroy entire planets. Shadow says to reactivate it, they need the Chaos Emeralds. This is when Rouge rolls in with a deal. She'll help them find the other Chaos Emeralds in exchange for the radar, which she can use to find the Master Emerald. They agree when she shows off the blue Chaos Emerald, but it's clear neither of them trust her. Rouge finds 3 of the 4 remaining Chaos Emeralds on Prison Island, so Team Dark head out. Eggman distracts the military, Rouge sneaks in and steals the emeralds, while Shadow plants explosives to blow the island up. Team Dark make it to the entrance, but this is when Amy shows up and hugs Shadow, thinking he's Sonic, but she quickly realizes what's going on. Tails, in the meantime, is flying to Prison Island to rescue Sonic in his brand new plane, the Tornado 3, which can now morph into a walking mech with guns and missiles. When he arrives, Tails sees that Amy is being attacked by Eggman in his mech, so they have a robot battle as Shadow and Rouge run off. I have a question as well. Why don't modern Sonic games have Tails in his mech? He's really cool here. Tails fights Eggman off as Amy explains she came to save Sonic. How she got here is beyond me, but they decide to work together. Interestingly, on the walls of Sonic's cell there is a bunch of scientific writings marked everywhere. Rouge meanwhile got the 3 emeralds, but she gets locked into a safe. She asks Shadow for help, and while he initially says no, he flashes back to his memory of Maria and decides to help Rouge. Outside, Sonic and Shadow get into another fight, ending abruptly as Eggman reminds Shadow the island is about to blow up. This forces Sonic to run off because he needs to get Amy and Tails off of the island, and he does so. Shadow meanwhile races to Rouge and makes it just in time, using the emeralds she has to activate Chaos Control and teleport them away before the island goes kaboom. While on the Ark, Shadow remembers a conversation he had with Maria, the two wondering what it's like on Earth. Gerald has said his life's work was to help people through science, but Shadow doesn't know why he was created. Maybe the answer is on Earth. Flashing back to reality, Rouge asks why Shadow helped her, and he plays it off as just wanting the Chaos Emeralds. Eggman taps into everyone's TVs, all to show off the Eclipse Cannon, which looks like his face, of course. He demonstrates his power to the Earth by blasting apart half the moon. Eggman says the world has 24 hours to surrender, or else. Sonic, Tails, and Amy figure out Eggman is on the space colony Ark as Knuckles arrives. He's been off finding pieces of the Master Emerald and agrees to help. The way they found out Eggman was on the Ark too, Sonic and Tails hop into the president's limo to trace the call he's having with Eggman. Something to note about the president as well, in Sonic's world there aren't multiple world leaders, it's all one combined nation under the United Nations. So this president is the president of the world. The things you learn when playing Sonic. Eggman is also upset because without the 7th Chaos Emerald, the Eclipse Cannon takes forever to recharge. After Eggman and Shadow leave, Rouge calls someone and says she's not been able to figure out if Shadow is the ultimate life form or not, while also mentioning she wants some jewels in exchange. Knuckles takes Sonic, Tails, and Amy to a pyramid which is really an Eggman base. They're hoping to find a spaceship inside, and after fighting off all the robots, a spaceship was there ready to go. They also call Knuckles the world's greatest treasure hunter. Look, I get he's been running around collecting the Master Emerald pieces, but that doesn't make him a treasure hunter, more like a scavenger. Our heroes blast off and arrive at the space colony Ark, but Knuckles has to leave the group after some of his Master Emerald pieces flies out of the ship. Tails gives us a bit of insight into the space colony. It was the first space colony and the most advanced, with brilliant scientists working day and night, but it was shut down 50 years ago after an unknown accident. Tails created a fake yellow Chaos Emerald with the same properties as the real one, but not as strong. He plans to place it in the cannon's power supply, destroying it from the inside. Rouge tricks Eggman into giving her access to the space colony control, which lets her seize Gerald's files on Project Shadow, and what she sees shocks her. Eggman attacks and grabs Amy. He says hand over the last emerald or else, but when Sonic goes to hand over the fake emerald, Eggman traps him. He realized they made another emerald, so he tricks Tails into revealing which is fake and which is real. Once he knew, he blasted Sonic into space and exploded him. Just before he left, Sonic told Tails and Amy they could do this, which gives Tails the motivation to keep fighting, and he defeats Eggman. The Egghead gets the last laugh, however, as he swiped the yellow emerald and bolted for the Eclipse Cannon. Meanwhile, Knuckles has found the rest of the Master Emerald pieces, but Rouge is there, wanting the emerald as well. They fight and Rouge falls off the platform, but Knuckles saves her. Rouge, you do know you have wings, right? Anyways, instead of thanking him, Rouge says he was just trying to be fresh, but he doesn't care as he takes the last emerald pieces and restores the Master Emerald. Rouge went back to swipe the Chaos Emeralds, but Shadow stops her. She's not very good at stealing jewels. Shadow figured out the truth. Rouge was working for the president this whole time. Rouge shows Shadow the results of Gerald's experiments. The true ultimate life form was the giant lizard, so who is Shadow? Spoilers now, that thing is called the Bio-Lizard, which Gerald made based off the drawings of Chaos from the Echidna temples. It was a prototype who turned into a monster, so Gerald made his second creation, Shadow, basing him off the Hedgehog drawings also found in the Echidna temples. They don't say it in this game, but Gerald was an archaeologist in addition to a scientist, and he heavily studied Echidna lore, which is why he used the Chaos Emeralds in his designs. Shadow doesn't care about these revelations, saying that even if he's not the real Shadow and these memories aren't his, they're all he has. He will keep his promise to Maria and get revenge. That's all that matters to him now. While running around, Knuckles runs into Sonic, who teleported right in front of him. Yep, while in space, Sonic used the Chaos Control with the fake emerald to teleport back onto the station. He still has a chance to put the fake emerald in the cannon, but Shadow arrives and they have a fight/race. Shadow also asks who Sonic is because despite what he told Rouge, he's a little unsure of himself and his memories. This is where there's a little branch in the timeline based on what story you're playing. If you play as Sonic, you beat Shadow and insert the fake fake Chaos Emerald, destroying the Eclipse Cannon. But if you play as Shadow, you beat Sonic and Eggman inserts the real Emerald, powering up the cannon. For the sake of the timeline, I'll just say Sonic and Shadow tied, but regardless of which path you take, they both end with the last Emerald inserted into the Eclipse Cannon, which leads into the final story. As soon as the final Chaos Emerald is inserted, the whole system shuts down and the space colony starts falling towards Earth. On the monitors, we see a message that starts playing all over the world. The message is from Gerald Robotnik, chained to a chair in his prison cell. Gerald says this is a death sentence to the entire world. According to his calculations, the space colony will crash into the Earth in 27 minutes and 53 seconds, destroying everything and everyone. Time for backstory! Gerald was a brilliant scientist doing research on the Ark and was being funded by Gunn. He wanted to create things to help humanity, but all Gunn wanted were weapons and kept pressuring Gerald to create something for them. Gerald wouldn't do it even when they threatened to close down the Ark, but everything changed when Maria entered the picture. Maria was Gerald's granddaughter and Eggman's cousin. Gerald had two sons, one who studied robotics, the father of Eggman, and the other who studied archaeology, Maria's father. Maria was a very kind girl, but she was suffering from neuroimmune deficiency syndrome. It's a rare condition that is terminal and there was no cure. Gerald was determined to save his granddaughter, however, so he brought her up to the Ark, low gravity keeping her condition in remission. He had a new mission, to use Gunn and the Ark to find a cure for Maria. Gerald thought that if he found the secret to eternal life, he could cure his granddaughter. He studied Echidna history as well as the Chaos Emeralds and created the Bio-Lizard, his first attempt at the ultimate life form, but it was not successful. The Bio-Lizard, while immortal, needed machines hooked up to him, and he was a mindless monster. Gerald was put under pressure, even more so because Gunn wanted some kind of weapon. That is when he had a breakthrough with creating Shadow, with a little help we'll talk about later. Shadow and Maria became good friends and dreamed of when they could go to the Earth together. Things were going great. Gerald had almost finished Shadow and found a cure, but Gunn interfered. Tired of Gerald's lies and holding out on them, they had a plan to seize everything he made. They sent troops up to the Ark and killed everyone that wasn't Gerald or Shadow. They captured Gerald, but Shadow and Maria made it to the escape pods. Unfortunately, while running away, Maria gets shot, but does manage to send Shadow to Earth. Shadow is then found by Gunn and brought to Prison Island along with Gerald, blaming the deaths on an accident Gerald caused. Gunn wanted Gerald to finish Shadow so he can be used as a weapon for them. While locked up, Gerald found out about Maria's death, and it drove him to insanity. He worked to complete Shadow alright, complete Shadow so he can destroy the world that took everything away from him. He tampered with Shadow's memories and gave him the mission to destroy the world, but Gunn found out about it. Gunn locked up Shadow because he was still a valuable asset and had Gerald executed. This message we hear to the world is the last thing Gerald said before he died. Now that the Chaos Emeralds have been inserted into the system, they cannot be removed. And everyone will feel loss and despair just as Gerald did for so long. That's all he said before his execution. Jeez, that was dark and surprisingly mature for a Sonic game. As you can see, it was a very intriguing story, and it's why this story and Shadow are so fondly remembered. The reason this storyline was so amazing was because it came out at a time when video games didn't have in-depth storylines. Sure, Metal Gear and all those other games came out and told a story, but Sonic was one of the first. Shadow, Gerald, and even all the other characters feel very fleshed out in this epic story, and it'd be the new norm for video games. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Rouge, and Eggman meet in the control room to figure out what to do. The Chaos Emeralds are overpowering the Ark, which will cause a huge explosion, so they need to stop the energy. Fortunately, Knuckles has the Master Emerald, which can stop the Chaos Emeralds, but the Emeralds have moved to a different location. They all agree to work together and race to the Chaos Emeralds before the Ark goes boom. The only one who stayed behind was Amy, who runs into Shadow watching the Earth, just like he used to with Maria. Amy asks Shadow to help save the world, but he's all for getting revenge against the planet that killed Maria. Amy says, while yes, there are bad people in the world, there are even more good people out there on Earth, just like the ones on the Ark trying to save the world. In this moment, Shadow remembers his last conversation with Maria, the one Gerald overwrote before. Maria wanted Shadow to protect and be friends with people, to help them live fulfilling, happy lives. That's why Shadow was created, to help the good people of Earth. Shadow realizes he must keep his promise to Maria and races to help the others. Sonic and Knuckles make it to the core of the ship, which looks just like the altar on Angel Island. Unfortunately for them, the Chaos Emeralds are being guarded by the giant Bio-Lizard, but Shadow arrives to fight his older brother. Shadow fights and defeats the Bio-Lizard while Sonic and Knuckles use the Master Emerald to shut down the Chaos Emeralds. The Bio-Lizard wasn't finished yet, however, as it uses the powers of the Emerald to enact chaos control just like his younger brother and teleports outside of the Ark. It merges with the space colony and starts pulling it towards the Earth. This starts what is arguably the best final level and final boss of any Sonic game. Realizing they're out of options, both Sonic and Shadow use the power of the Chaos Emeralds to become Super Sonic and Super Shadow. They blast outside and do everything they can to defeat the Bio-Lizard, backed by the iconic song by Crush 40, Live and Learn. I think Sonic gained a whole new fan base from this final sequence alone. It's such a great great final boss, and the song is amazing. It's always the highlight whenever Crush 40 performs live. It's one of the greatest final boss fights in history. Super Sonic and Super Shadow work together to beat back the Bio-Lizard, but it's still not enough. That is until Shadow takes off his inhibitor rings. They were made by Gerald to restrict his power to give him better control, but now's not the time to hold back. The Super Hedgehogs give it their all and use Chaos Control to teleport the Ark back to its original spot. The Earth was safe with everyone cheering our heroes, but it's a bittersweet ending. Sonic returns to the others with bad news. Shadow gave everything he had to save the world and keep his promise to Maria, using up all his powers and falling to Earth. If you've watched my Sonic X review of the storyline, you know, but Shadow was definitely going to die in the final cut. The same way Gamma died in Adventure, they were going to kill off Shadow, but the game and Shadow exploded in popularity when it was re-released on the GameCube, so they brought him back. In the aftermath, Eggman admits as a child he looked up to his grandfather as his hero and wanted to be a great scientist like him, but is shocked Gerald tried to destroy the world. Rouge ponders, however, thinking that maybe deep down Gerald wanted Shadow to stop him. When creating the Ultimate Life Form, Gerald copied Shadow's soul, if you will, after Maria. That way, even if Gun did somehow get their hands on him, Shadow would never be a weapon. Because deep down Shadow is a good person, which Rouge agrees with, saying she'll miss him. The amazing story ends with everyone going home, Sonic saying one last goodbye to his doppelganger and friend Shadow. What else can I give this story other than an S? It is so iconic and amazing. You could argue it saves Sonic's entire game series. It's deep, it's epic, it's fun, it's emotional, it's everything a modern Sonic game should be. It's an iconic game and one of Sonic's most important adventures, and the one that made sure even if Sonic did end here, it went out with the biggest bang. As for the gameplay, you know already, it's awesome. That's all I have for you today. We are continuing on with more of the 3D Sonic games next time. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all later.